Welcome, everybody, to the 23rd episode of Stories from the Last Territory, the last one for this year, 2024, the podcast that covers the golden years of wrestling in Puerto Rico. My name is Luis Cuevas, better known as the Caveman, and I am, like always, your host for this trip back in time to the greatest feuds in the history of Puerto Rico. If you like what you hear and see, please subscribe to YouTube or in audio at Spotify as Stories from the Last Territory. And please share with your friends, your neighbors, anybody who you think might be interested in the golden years of wrestling in Puerto Rico. Today, we're going to be taking the second part of the TNT versus Carlos Colon feud. This one is the one that for some people changed the course of professional wrestling in the island of Puerto Rico. And for so many people, it's also the beginning of the end. And it's one thing that for many people, wrestling never recovered in Puerto Rico. I'm talking about the 1990 feud between TNT versus Carlos Colon. I want to thank Luis Gomez, my partner in the page, Desde los Territorios, for his invaluable help in making this episode possible. When we left part one, remember TNT had become one of the most popular baby faces in the company, with the company doing some great specials about him training and showing his martial arts knowledge. And from the end of 1987 to the end of 1998, he had some incredible feuds. He had feuds against the likes of Abdullah the Butcher, Hercules Ayala, Buddy Landeo, in all types of matches that solidify him as a babyface main eventer to the eyes of the fans. And he seemed like he was on the verge of becoming the next guy. Sadly, in 1989, he seemed to fall into the trap of many like him before who seemed destined to be the next future superstar like Miguelito Perez. Everything. When they became too popular, the company would seem to cool them down. And aside from a short but awesome feud with Steve Strong in 1989, he was facing not great quality opponents. He was facing the likes of Sika, who was a little past his prime, Abu Dhabi, the original TNT, and Rip Rogers, who was a great wrestler, but he wasn't a main eventer like he had been facing in 1987, 1988. And he had lost a little bit of the luster that he had in previous years, but for the fans, he seemed destined to be the guy. That's how popular he was to the fans in Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, Carlos Colon, from our last podcast, had two feuds that were money feuds. I mean, feuds that made him plenty of money. I mean, it was incredible. The feud against Hercules Ayala that basically covered from 1987 to early 1989, and the surprising 60 strong feud that was a godsend to Capital Sports Promotion that carried the company all the way in 89 to Thanksgiving in 89. After that feud, two things were very evident. People, like in the States with Hulk Hogan, were getting a little tired of Carlos Colon being on top. And the company needed a heel that would move the tickets because there really wasn't anybody out there that could move the tickets, like Sadistic and Hercules and Abdullah and some of the other wrestlers that had come during the glory years of wrestling in Puerto Rico. Leo Burke came to the island, and he was a great wrestler. Please don't think otherwise. But people did not want to see him in 1989 or 1990. But he was the card that we were dealt, and he became the Universal Heavyweight Champion in a battle of the Figure 4 against Carlos Colon in a feud that really wasn't that exciting, to be honest with you. People really wanted to see a new face as a champion, and it seemed like TNT was the hand picked by the fans. He was incredibly over during this time. And for a while, it seemed like WWC was in agreement. And they start pushing TNT as the main face of the company. And they start pushing a feud between Leo Burke versus TNT for the Universal Heavyweight Championship. And here, like they say, is where we start our story for this week. The feud started with a very slow build, and during this time, like I mentioned, Leo Burke was the Universal Champ, and he faced TNT in a couple matches for the title, and with no results. So finally, they set up to a match where, to counteract Chiqui Star being in the corner of Leo Burke, TNT had Carlos Colon in his corner. The match was very close, but in the last stage of the match, while Carlos was discussing with the ref, Chiqui Star gave Leo Burke some brass knuckles, but TNT was able to kick them out of his hand, and he fell on Carlos Colon on the outside of the ring. While Chiqui was distracting the ref now when TNT was on the lead, Carlos came in and hit Leo Berg with the brass knuckles he had grabbed from the floor and hidden on his pants. And the ref turned around, count to three, and we had a new Universal Heavyweight Champion with Carlos Colon and TNT celebrating, and the fans going wild, and other wrestlers joining the ring. And it seemed like finally we had a new guy on top uh, as the Universal Heavyweight Champion. After winning the title, there was a battle royal, and within the last minutes, it was TNT, Ron Starr, Greg Valentine, and Abdullah the Butcher fighting to see who will win this battle royal. TNT, Superman Hulk, or whatever you want to call it, and started throwing out the rest of the wrestlers. And when he was about to take Ron Starr, Abdullah the Butcher, who into that time had been a babyface, sneaked in and took out TNT to win the battle royale. TNT came back to the ring and asked Abdullah and his manager, Heke, who I'm not quite sure uh, who he was, but why he took him out, because they were supposed to be babyface. But Abdullah Butcher stretched the hand to shake TNT's hand, but instead attacked TNT and left the ring. This led to TNT jumping out of the ring like a madman and just beating the living hell out of Abdullah with a cane and his manager, and he just whooped Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, he left him dying, bleeding all over the place. This is great to see TNT showing this side of him. Next week on TV, it was announced that Abdullah and TNT were going to face each other for the Universal Heavyweight title. And TNT was cutting a promo when he was interrupted by El Heke, Abdullah's manager, asking him, "Why did you attack me last week?" When TNT turned around to grab the manager, Abdullah came in with a mop bucket. Yes, a mop bucket. And attacked TNT in the interview room, beating TNT with the mop bucket. It was a steel mop bucket, and just beating TNT like crazy into Carlos Colon, and Invader made the save. But TNT pushed them aside and was going crazy, saying, "You want this title? You really want it? Well, then you're going to have to kill me. And I swear on my mother that I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to keep being the champion because this is a new era of wrestling." It was an amazing promo saying, "We got a war, and you're going to have to kill me to take this title away from me." This promo, good Lord, was amazing. And it seemed like a breath of fresh air that this promotion really needed at this time. While walking out the set, we're always saying, "Look how this mop bucket looks." And it's all dented, and there's blood everywhere. And he has blood all over from TNT. This is going crazy. And TNT, it just seemed like, we have a new face. We have somebody. Sadly, that title reign lasted a couple of weeks because for some reason or another, in a match that we only have a short tidbit, the final part, Abdullah is seen hitting an elbow drop. He pins TNT, but he has the foot on the ropes. But the ref did not see it, and we have a new Universal Champion. But Abdullah really was only a transition, and Abdullah, of course, lost the title back to Carlos Colon, and everything seemed to be peaches and cream in the good guy's side. Into a tag team match in Carolina. This was shown on Chiqui Star Hot Corner, where he gave commentary while he's doing the match. And at the beginning of the match, we see Carlos Colon being distracted with the ref while TNT reaches to the corner to hit a tag, but Carlos Colon is not there, leading to TNT receiving more attack. The story of the match was basically every time Carlos would try to interfere to help TNT, the ref would put him aside and the rule breakers would take advantage and keep beating TNT. But Carlos Colon keeps saving on TNT at the 1-2 count. He would come in and stop the count. But it would lead again to the referee taking him out and TNT getting beat. Finally, the babyfaces make a comeback, and Carlos Colon is holding Scott Hall so TNT can hit him with his famous sidekick. When Hall moves and hits Carlos, leading to Carlos being pinned by Scott Hall. After the match, Carlos starts arguing with TNT about the kick, and Carlos not interfering to stop the count. He's like, "Look, I did the same to you. When you were down, I came in and I kicked the guy to stop the count. And you didn't do nothing." And TNT's like, "Dude, no, I'm sorry, I apologize." And Chiqui Star did a great job while in commentary, putting the seeds of the feud. First, by stating that Carlos Colon caused that TNT took an unnecessary beating during that match by not being in the corner, and stating that because Carlos Colon was old and struggling, he could not hold on to Scott Hall and was trying to pass the buck. But if he had been in the corner, none of the rest of the match would have happened because TNT would have been saved, everything would have been great. Strangely enough, just because of this, Carlos Colon sets up a meeting between the Justice Army to talk about that match and situation, and they call for TNT to be in the meeting, kind of similar to what they did with Hercules Ayala in 1987, where they talked to him and kumbaya, and everything's great and everything is good. But in this time, something weird happened. TNT did not show up. And everybody's like, well, he should have been, where he's at, and everything. And Hugo interviews Castillo, and everybody's like, well, he should have been here an hour ago. I don't know what's going on. At the end, you see Carlos Colon getting up from the table and calling TNT his house, but TNT does not answer, leading to members of the Justice talking about why TNT is not there. And, watching it again, the crap the Justice Army is talking here, I would have been like TNT. I'd be like, screw you all, man. You got invaded. Oh, he just obsessed about the Universal Heavyweight title. He cares about himself. Why? He's not here because he's with Chiqui Star. Yeah, he went to the dark side, But, you never know. Maybe he had a flat tire. Traffic jams in Puerto Rico are kind of crazy, Maybe he missed the meeting. He has something with his family. No, they jumped to conclusion right away. And Hugo interviews Carlos, who said, if he's not here, it means that he's with Chiqui Star. I mean, again, they didn't even give the poor man the benefit of the doubt. All he wants is my title, and he's with Chiqui, so if he wants my title, I'll give him the chance. So next week, TNT goes to the studio, and Hugo straight up was like, hey, are you with Chiqui? Why didn't you go to the meeting? And Tina's like, hell no, I'm not with him. I just had nothing to do at that meeting. And second, all they wanted to do was change my goals. That is to become once again Universal Heavyweight Championship. And them or nobody would take me away from that goal. People were calling me, family members, even my mentor, Huracan Castillo father, who have been my manager, called me to ask me what was going on and that I should not challenge Carlos Colon. But I told him that I just doing what he as a mentor told me, and it's to go for my dream and my goals. And that my goal has always been to be the Universal Champion. TNT once again put down the claim to Carlos Colon. You have been on top too long. You are too old to be champ, and you have been the leader of the Justice Army for way too many years. And here I am. I am young, I am hungry, and I'm coming in my peak. And it's time for you to leave, and let me lead this new generation on top. And that Carlos, he's also from Puerto Rico, so it's not like another American that's coming to take away the title. He just wants a chance to be the new face of wrestling. So that led to Miguelito Perez challenging Savio to a match in Caguas. And in that match, Savio put the Cobra Crush on Miguelito, while the Justice Army came out and was trying to encourage Miguelito to get out of the Cobra Crush. But it was not to be, as TNT beat him. And after the match, TNT saw the Justice Army, and he had a look of disgust, like, look at these clowns outside the ring looking at me. So he left the ring, not waking up Miguelito, and he grabs the mic and goes, Carlos, Viejito Colon, Carlos, old man Colon, and tell him that's going to be you in Aniversario 90, and leaves. For the next couple of weeks, TNT went through everyone in the Justice Army, defeating them all without waking them up after putting the Cobra Crush. So finally, WWC announced in a contract signing that the challenge for the history, or Reto para la Historia, was going to be held in Aniversario 90 or Anniversary 90 for the Universal title. During this time, Caprio did an amazing video of TNT called Evolution, a big net of TNT that was fire. It was so great. It showed him in a great light, and you could see the possibilities they could do. He's training under the water. He has fire. He's on the beach. He's doing everything. I mean, it was pretty awesome. You guys check it out. It's called TNT Evolution. It's really good. And they also did the usual asking fans around Puerto Rico, who you think is going to win? And, you got people saying it's going to be Miguelito, Savio, and TNT, and some other people saying it's going to be Carlos. So, it was pretty cool. And then they show a video of Carlos Colon training for his match in the gym with la canción Soy Boricua, tú lo sabes, which is like his song. I mean, even if it didn't apply because he was fighting another Boricua, but that's another subject, right? But anyway, so he's training and he's in the gym and he's also practicing Taekwondo, and they're trying to counteract the Cobra Crush, and you got to do this to escape, and you got to do this and that. And the promos basically were very simple. It was TNT saying it's time for a change. You are old, and Puerto Rico needs a breath of fresh air. Was Carlos saying, I am the veteran. I have the steady hand. And in this time in Puerto Rico wrestling, it needs the steady hand that I bring. You are too impulsive. You don't know what you're talking about. And TNT, you're too old. We need a new beginning. And many fans were saying, yeah, we do need a new beginning. Please, God, we do. It's getting too old. And finally, anniversary night happened. And in the match, which was a sold out, and Juan Ramon Lubriel, you could see that the crowd was really split 50-50. Even some people say 60-40 in favor of TNT. And it was raining, and there was mud in the rain, and it was crazy. And everybody thought, okay, tonight it will be the night the torch is passed. And I think a lot of the reason that many people went to that card was because they thought that it was going to be the night. According to the legend, the torch was going to be passed that night. TNT had been informed before the card that he was going to win. But allegedly, according to the legend, when he got to the stadium, they say, hey, change your plans. Carlos changed the booking plans, and he's not going to lose tonight. And the match was changed to a draw, which to this day many people say was the final nail in the coffin of the glory years of Puerto Rico. Why the decision was changed and why, only two people can talk about it. Carlos Colon, who sadly is sick right now, and maybe Savio, to explain the reasoning why to change the decision. Like I mentioned, the match was filled with rain, with mud and blood. There were a lot of false finish. In one, it looked like TNT had won the title, but the ref called it off. And the match ended in a tie with Carlos Colon applying the figure 4 leg lock when time ran out. It even made... So, the match was great, but it really didn't... A lot of people were very disappointed in that match because everybody thought that, okay, Carlos Colon is going to finally pass the torch, and it just didn't happen at all. The following week, in the Chiqui Star Sports Shop, Chiqui Star came out announcing the contract signing of TNT with Chiqui Star. In a funny segment when Chiqui kicked out Hugo, telling him to go hang out with his boy Carlos, with Savio saying that if he had Chiqui Star in his corner, he would have already been the champion, and that Carlos is old and he cannot stop Jude, and that they announced a rematch between them. But before that rematch, in a tag team match in Caguas before a full house, TNT and Akeem Alumba faced Carlos and Scott Hall in a pretty awesome brawl that at the end saw TNT pinned Carlos Colon clean in the middle of the ring to become once again the number 1 challenger. In a TV show called Super Sábado, which was a local program TV of games, like the Sábado Gigante, if you know, of Univision in the United States. So it was a game show. They had music, they had variety, they got contests. They had a wrestling match that day, and it was going to be TNT facing the Invader for something called the Super Sábado Cup, or whatever they call that crap. And Invader had Carlos Colon in his corner. In that match, you see TNT taunting Carlos to step in the ring, saying, come on, old man, I don't want him, I want you, and this and that. Into finally, he got into Carlos Colon's skin, and Carlos Colon jumped in the ring, and a wild brawl ensued on the TV show into King Duck with a candlestick came in and attacked the faces, leaving Invader especially in a bloody mess. I mean, I'm surprised that in that TV show, which is like a family TV show, you see Invader just bleeding buckets of blood everywhere, and you see Carlos Colon naked, almost naked without his clothes. It's such a surreal image, and you see the host of the TV shows like, oh my God, what's happening, And then to make matters worse, they had Invader the bloody with the hot looking model with a cup to try to give it to him, even though he's all bloody, and they had to call ambulance and everything. It's just a surreal image. Only in Puerto Rico, my friends. Only in Puerto Rico can you see blood in a family show like that. That same night, they face each other in and talking about TNT and Carlos Colon in the Juan Ramon Luriel in the most awaited rematch between them. And in the moment Carlos was about to win, King Duck came in, and between them attacked Carlos Colon into the Justice Army came in for the save. This led to another rematch the following week in Caguas for the Universal title, and TNT put on the Cobra Crush on Carlos, and it looked like he was going to win the title, but Invader won. Came in with a chair to make the save. The following week on the TV show, Carlos Colon was the special host with Hugo Sabinovich of the TV show, and he was announced he was going to defend the title. I don't remember against who. When TNT interrupted and called Carlos, "Tú eres un cobarde, you're a coward, you're an old man, un viejo, you're an old man, and you're afraid to face me because you know que te gané, that I beat you, that I'm the uncrowned heavyweight champion of the world. You're nothing. You're afraid of me. Why don't you defend the title against me?" And it was an awesome back and forth saying, that he's an uncrowned champion, and Carlos Colon, you gotta respect me. You're a charlatan. You always do this and this and that. And Hugo's like, por favor, please, please, please. And Trinity is like, you shut up, tú te calla. And every time that Hugo would try to talk, like, I'm telling you, shut up. And he kept challenging Carlos face to face in that night, saying, you're afraid. What is the problem? You're a coward. And Carlos trying to be on macho and stuff. And after that back and forth, Carlos is like, look, you ungrateful bitch. I fight you tonight. But if you lose, that's it. No more title shots. Osari's like, come on, old man. Come on, old man. Face me. I'm going to beat you. And you shut up, Hugo. Well, TNT taking out his karate gear and throwing it in the face of Carlos. But for whatever reason, later in the show, they announced that this match will not be for the Universal title. There was going to be a non-title. They're like, come on, dude. You have this great segment and you... But anyway, that's another story for another day. That night, TNT beat Carlos, which led to a title shot again in Juan Ramon Luriel without time limit, which ended in a countdown, which then led to a barbed wire match in Juan Ramon Luriel Stadium the following week, which had so much blood it could fill up the Red Cross. And this was a bloody barbed wire match. I mean, in the scale Muta, the scale Colon was up there. At the end, saw Carlos Colon with the sleeper hold, and Kid Duck came in and tried to interfere by spraying Carlos with the green mist, but Carlos let go of the sleeper, and the green mist, hit TNT, and that led to Carlos pinning TNT to retain the Universal title. And basically, this is the end of the Feud, because no more title shots for TNT. And basically, after this match, this situation led to moving TNT back to the good guy side, the third change in less than 1 year for TNT. Following a week, there was a tag team match between TNT and Kim Duck versus Giant Warrior and Invader. At the end, TNT is holding Giant Warrior when Kim Duck tries to hit him with the candlestick, but instead hits TNT, which got TNT mad, and they all took punches, and the Rule Breakers came in, and they had to divide them with Prophet trying to calm things down between them, and it looked like TNT was going to be a babyface. Well, that was very clear the next couple of weeks when the Texas Handman, a tag team that came from the United States, Psycho and Killer, were facing Invader 1, and Carlos Colon in a TV taping match. And in that match, they took Carlos Colon out and they put a hangman noose on Invader, and they looked like they were gonna choke into that. And they had Invader, and it's like, I mean, the visual is scary, and you see the fans going crazy, and then you see the baby faces, the Justice Army trying to interfere, but all the rule breakers came in, and they were just fighting outside, not letting the good guys to come to the ring and save Invader, and Invader is just hanging by a hangman's noose in the ring, and people are just nuts, going crazy. Sacha, who's a valet or a wrestler, a woman, came in, but she was also attacked by the hangman while they continued to do it. And then Eric Embry grabs her, and TNT comes walking down. And it looked like TNT, okay, well, he's going to come and finish the job because he had Carlos Colon and he had Invader. And he pops Eric Embry, and the noise of the fans, I mean, the visual of the fans just going crazy when TNT attack Eric Embry and save Invader and attack the Texas Hangman. I mean, it was amazing. It was loud, and you see the people just jumping and screaming his name, TNT, TNT. And you know, when I saw the video for this podcast, I was like, dude, they had another chance with that guy right there. Not only, I mean, they had a chance to pass the torch in anniversary, but they were given another chance. The fans are telling them, you know, this is the guy, you know, this is the man. People were jumping and screaming his name, and he could have been like this guy who, I don't know, kind of like Stone Cold maybe or something like that, kind of like by his own, a lone wolf kind of deal, because they had him. Watch this video, and I'm going, man, they had another shot with him right there to just let him be without any alliance or anything, just being who he was, and it would have worked, you know. But you know what they did? You're not gonna believe what they did with TNT, the character. Next week in TV, they had him sitting down next to Carlos Colon and Hugo Sabinovich, and Hugo Sabinovich is like, Carlos, can you trust TNT? And Carlos like, well, you know, he made mistakes, but he's a great wrestler, and more importantly, he defended, you know, Puerto Rico, this Texas Hangman guys, and you know, they go to TNT, and you know, you think TNT will be like, you know, I might not like this guy, but you know what, we have you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and what the Texas Hangman did, you know, they hit a woman. I saw Invader. I couldn't let that happen. That's ridiculous. There's a line, and I won the title, but you know, kind of keep him with the edge. Make common sense, right? No. The first thing they did is like, I got my heart open, and I'm here. If you can forgive me, I don't know what I did all these months. I want to apologize. I am crying, Carlos, because I want your forgiveness. Could you please forgive me, Carlos? I won't do this again. I was wrong. Crying on TV to his master, Carlos Colon, and Carlos like, I forgive you, son. Don't worry. Don't worry. Just don't do it again. And it just killed TNT. He never recovered into the year 2000 when he turned into a bad guy as Savio Vega. That's how bad the perception was of Savio Vega, of TNT, after that pathetic look on TV of him crying, asking for forgiveness on Carlos, saying that he opens his heart. And it was just like, oh my God. I mean, I see that thing, it's just like, why? They had him again, you know? And, you know, they made a tag team for a little bit against the Texas Hangman, and then TNT went back to the mid-card. And that was it. 6 months later, he leaves for the AWF, All-Star Wrestling promotion that opened, and he never returned to Capitol into the year 2000 or whatever. That was the end of TNT, the character. That was the end of his push. They had in 1990 the opportunity to have the new face of wrestling in Puerto Rico, and they just drop it. I mean, what they did to that character in 1990. I mean, they had him as a face, lost in the shuffle. They finally said, we're going to push him. They cut his wins by not giving him the victory over Carlos. They turned him face. They had a chance again to leave him as a lone wolf and being a badass, and they have him crying on TV asking for Carlos for forgiveness. And it just killed the character and killed the feud. Then 1991 came and WWC went down the toilet. It really wasn't the same. Attendance went down. Half the roster left. 1992, it took Invader turning Rule Breaker to help a little bit and save the company, because it just was bad. And it wasn't until like later in the 90s when they had Ray Gonzalez and the Azteca Invasion and many other things that helped them, but that was it. That was the nail in the coffin of the glory years. After that, for 2 years, the Capitol never recovered. They even had to change their name from Capitol Sports Promotion to World Wrestling Council. TNT had to go to the United States and become Juan and Savio Vega and become a star everywhere else, then come back to Puerto Rico in the IWA, turn heel to become that great star that he could have been in 1990. So that's the look at the Carlos Colon versus TNT Feud in 1990. Hope you guys like it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Please leave your comments if you agree with me that was the end of the glory years of Capital Sports Promotion. After this, we're going to take a couple of weeks off because I'm going to be on vacation for Christmas break. So everybody have a happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, whatever you celebrate. Be careful out there. Take good care. I also want to recommend you guys check out. I did a podcast with BBC London talking about the Ballad of Bruiser Brody. Check it out. It's in Spotify. It's on BBC. So hopefully you guys like it. Well, until next time, with a new episode of Stories from the Last Territory. This is your friend Luis Cuevas de Cayman saying, sayonara, amigos.